Hey guys, so look what I got. I have a freshly made, beautiful, cheesy quesadilla. This is so delicious. I'm gonna pull it apart. Get that lovely cheesy melt. And I'm gonna have my piece with some salsa on it, some of my favorite salsa, just like that. Oh, let's try this thing. See what it's like. Quesadillas are so good. And so crazy easy. It's so good. Okay. Super easy. Let me show you how to do this. All right, so the ingredients for the very simple cheese quesadilla. First of all, you're going to need 2 flour tortillas. It's like that, 2 flour tortillas. This is soft taco size. It could really be any size, but 2 flour tortillas. And you're gonna need some cheese. Now, this cheese here is some Monterey Jack cheese that I shredded myself. This is some packaged already shredded cheese. This is sharp cheddar. Now, I like to shred the cheese myself, and I'll tell you why. Shredded cheese that you do yourself from a block of cheese, it melts faster and it doesn't have any extra ingredients in it. This kind of cheese here, this kind of pre-shredded cheese here, it has some ingredients in it like potato starch, and that's to prevent the cheese from like clumping up. But again, that's an extra ingredient that I don't really want. Now, could you use pre-shredded cheese to make a quesadilla? Of course you could, and it would be just fine. I just like to shred the cheese myself. Now, you want to use a cheese that melts. Cheddar cheese melts great. Monterey Jack cheese melts great. Mozzarella cheese melts great. It has to be a good melting cheese. The other ingredient you're going to need is some kind of oil. I have olive oil that we're going to use, so we're going to use that. Okay, now this is a very basic cheese quesadilla. Quesadillas can be endlessly improvised with, but this is just a basic one, so I'll show you how to put it together. Okay, so I have one of my tortillas here on the cutting board, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to simply put my cheese on top of it, like this. Now, how much cheese are you going to use? Well, if you're in the lab, if you're in class, you'll use the amount that you get. If you were at home doing this, of course, you could use as much cheese as you wanted to, which is kind of one of the nice things about quesadillas is they're entirely, you can tailor them to how you like. So if you really, really like cheese, then go heavy on the cheese. But this is about how much you'll get in the lab. So take a good look at that amount there. Now this is also, if you were at home and you wanted to add some extras to it, like diced green chili, or if you had already cooked chicken or some other already cooked meat, lots of variation there. You don't want to add anything to this that's too wet. Like I wouldn't put salsa on this now because it would kind of make everything kind of wet. And then I'm going to take the other flour tortilla and just kind of make a sandwich of that. Now I'll show you how to grill this on the stovetop. Okay, so I'm over at the stovetop and I'm gonna turn on the heat over here to about medium. Come on, stovetop. Sorry. There we go. To about medium, like that. And we're using this skillet. Now this is a heavy cast iron skillet. You can do pretty much anything in a cast iron skillet. And you want to get the cast iron skillet hot before you get the quesadilla in to cook. But not too hot. If it's too hot, you'll burn the quesadilla and you get one shot to make this work. So I have the heat on here and I'm going to take some of my olive oil, and this isn't baking, so you don't need measuring spoons. This is just a basic tablespoon. And I'm just gonna put some oil in it and then right into the skillet there, just like that. Now this is kind of a handy tool, this pastry brush. You don't need to have this. If you have one at home, great. But I'm just gonna use it to kind of get inside so you can really see that, to paint the oil around there. And notice it's not a ton of oil. It just kind of barely coats the bottom of the pan. We're not deep frying these things, but we do want to get some crispiness on them, and oil, or butter for that matter, will make that happen. So we're gonna let this heat up probably for another minute, and then I will put our quesadilla sandwich on top of this and get it cooking. Okay, so the light coating of oil I put in there has been heating up. I'd say a grand total of 3 minutes on medium heat. If you start to see smoke coming up, okay, then it's too hot and you need to turn the heat off and let it sit for a few minutes to cool down. But you could hover your hand over it. You can feel there's definitely some heat being kicked out. So I'm gonna take my quesadilla and kind of glide it down. You might hear a sizzle. That's good. You wanna hear a sizzle. Okay. Now, for how long do you let that cook? Depends on how high your heat is, depends on a few factors, but you want to keep checking it with a spatula to make sure that it doesn't get too brown, and I'll come back and do that. Okay, I just took a look under there and it's looking pretty good here. In fact, take a good close look in there. See what we got. See how it's getting some golden brown on it? That's looking good. It's not quite as brown as I want it, but it's getting close. So what I need to do is I need to get some oil on this side, the upside of this flour tortilla. So I have some oil, a little bit of my olive oil in a cup with my pastry brush, and I'm just gonna brush it around there. May not need all the oil, probably not. Brush it from end to end. There we go. Okay. And let's take a look and see how it's doing on the bottom. That's looking good. Okay. Watch how I do this, guys. You got to get the spatula under here, all the way under, and then flip it over, just like that. Not quite center, but that's okay. And now we're going to do the other side. And if you think it's going too fast, you can always turn down your heat, and that'll make it a little less time sensitive. So you give yourself a little bit more time. But this is looking good. The cheese is definitely melting. Okay, I'm gonna come back when this is totally done. All right, quesadilla just finished. Let's take a good look at it. So that's one side. You see it's got some nice deep golden brown. You don't want to take it off when it still basically looks like just a plain uncooked flour tortilla, because then it doesn't get any crispiness. You can see the other side, also nice and good and brown. And then to cut it, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use a knife. Now, at school, you probably can use the pizza cutter. That's the best tool to use at school. So I'm gonna cut it in half. You hear that crunch? That's nice. And then I'm going to do the other side. Get in close. Let's hear the crunch. Nice. And lift it up, see how melty that cheese is. And here's a gorgeous quesadilla that you can have with whatever you like, sour cream, if you have guacamole, salsa, all made, all quick, very simple, a delicious thing to make, and I hope you give this a try at home.